Today's the 4th of March 2020 and it's been a day since my previous uploads, and there's quite a lot that I could share about that is all relevant to this ongoing issue of human rights violations that I'm experiencing in Tralee, County Kerry, Ireland, that as of yet still hasn't been rectified or confronted adequately or fairly either. The upcoming International Women's Day is quite an important day for all women around the world, and this upload is with regard to how women in this predicament experience violations, vilification and vindication, and the violations of any women's rights is pretty serious, as I keep reiterating. And for International Women's Day to be approaching, and for this circumstance to be happening in Tralee, County Kerry, Ireland, is, as I've said, a sad sign of the times. So basically, as I've mentioned, there's been the issue of medical incompetence, and what has happened with this medical incompetence that I've discussed in previous uploads is that there have been injuries that I've experienced that haven't been treated. As I've mentioned, there's been head injuries, there's been skeletal injuries, and there's been other matters occurring that have not been treated. So fortunately, my recovery, as I've mentioned in previous uploads, began over 10 years ago. So in 2006, when I commenced on my recovery path, alternative healing was a part of my studies. So with all that's happening, the financial abuse and the medical incompetence and all that's happening, I'm in a position where, fortunately, with what I've learned and with what I know, I'm now in the process of healing the damages done that haven't been treated by general practitioners. So that's one aspect of all of this, and that women in this situation that are aware of what is happening and what has been done is very, very, very serious, simply because of women's health being such a priority and women's rights being such a priority. Over 10 years ago, as I've mentioned, there was controversy number one in this town, and this is now controversy number two. The first controversy involved defamation of my character, and not just my character, but my reputation and my profession, and untruths and falsehoods that were just outrageously defamatory. So this is the second attempt by the same culprits to cause further damage to my reputation after over a decade of study and research and whatnot in my interests and field of studies. So this hasn't just affected my health and the medical rights that I'm entitled to. This has also involved issues of individuals, professionals, that have made defamatory claims about my competencies and capabilities. There's been awful insults as well as the injuries about mental health, and I find that incredulous, to say the least, that people responsible for violating every right of the Human Rights Declaration to make any judgment calls or cast any aspersions or make any false claims about an individual that has not received any advocacy, supports or services, but has been insulted after injuries that were totally unnecessary. So with Women's International Day coming up, the concern that I have is with regards to women, professionals, female professionals that are advocating the violation of women's rights, and that think that their level of superiority is based on the premise of destroying another woman's hard work as a mother and as a professional. So this is what's happening in my hometown, and basically this situation still is not being acknowledged adequately, simply due to the preventative measures, as I've mentioned over and over again in these uploads, to safeguard the guilty culprits of not only human rights violations, but the desecration of my family life as a mother and as a teacher, a professional, my reputation, etc., etc. So there's all of these things happening on a day-to-day basis, and only earlier it was on the local radio station about the Duchess and Duke of Cambridge celebrating a pint of Guinness up in Dublin, and Ireland's perception or image as a country of boozers. So this brings me on to my recovery that I've stated commenced over a decade ago, and that recovery was sobriety and sanity as it is to this day. And the thing about it is, the image of this country as being a country of boozers isn't just that, it's also the image of this country as being a country of begrudgers. Women, in particular, that are aware of what I'm referring to, have been quite disrespectful of my achievements and other women's achievements, and have attempted to portray an image of their superiority by being disrespectful and insulting and injurious. And that, as we all know, isn't superior behaviour at all, at all. And as well as that, the issue of this image of boozing Ireland isn't also an accurate perception of this country either. If anything, begrudgery has been prevalent. Anyone that seems to be successful and recovering and moving on from any difficulties or hardships, and whose work is then, or achievements are then disrespected, is just typical begrudgery mentality, and I think that's worse than any boozing culture. So this issue of trying to, move on from that image of boozing Ireland into an image of sportsmanship and whatnot, brings me on to the next issue and point of one-upmanship. As I've said, there's top class players and sportsmen and women out there that know how to play clean. And in this circumstance of human rights violations and people defaming my character and disrespecting my achievements and lying and false claiming every day about this, that or the other without having any involvement or without any proper engagement or any consultation, just shows the foul play that's been perpetrated in this vendetta of human rights violations. So it's a pity for Women's Day to be coming up and for this to be happening to a woman that has worked very hard and is now suffering from physical ailments while being harassed by unprofessional, unethical individuals claiming falsehoods about other fabricated issues that they can't substantiate and that they're not qualified to be claiming either. So for this upload, my message is with regard to the Women's International Day that's approaching and the obligation of all women to respect all women. They have, in this incident, found it satisfying for themselves to be gaining and prospering from my work. And my work has been exploited, and there has been a complete lack of respect shown for women's rights. And with the politicians up in the Dáil and around the world and the UN agencies that I've contacted, I wonder would they mind raising awareness about these issues that have been caused by individuals that are nothing more than imposters, because there's been very serious identity theft that I've mentioned already with regards to my spiritual purpose and spirituality and my ancestry, my royal ancestry. The foul play has been disgraceful. So the image of Ireland being renovated and upgraded and elevated to an image of sportsmanship has not commenced very well. This New Ireland concept that has been based on these kind of foundations of denigrating and degrading a woman who has been violated with regards to her property rights, marital rights, um, financial theft that I've experienced, medical incompetence that I've experienced, defamation of my character, etc., etc., um, doesn't show a very progressive, you know, development for a new Ireland at all, unfortunately. So this entire situation that people have created is the second controversy in this town by individuals, a collective group of individuals that are yet again trying to be something that they're not, saying things that are not accurate, and that are yet again going to great lengths to ignore the damages that they've done. The amends that I'm owed are quite, inestimable. There isn't any cost that anyone could ever put on physical health, and the loss of family and the damage done to family life. There's no price that can be put on that either. So this entire situation is absolutely reckless. Any women involved that are fully aware of these circumstances from the uploads that I'm sharing, I hope they understand how outrageous this entire situation has become. It's quite embarrassing that in 2020 that petty playground tactics, as I refer to them as, have been employed in this kind of a vendetta, because women's rights, children's rights, my marital rights, my property rights, etc., etc., that have all been violated due to injustice, perversions of justice, and miscarriages of justice, and by withholding information from me, is not going to be very successful, and isn't very. It's not a very spiritualized development for a community or a collective to be espousing one thing and doing another. So, that's the hypocrisy of it, that's the delusion of it, and it makes me wonder about their level of mental health awareness and their level of mental health care, that they, that these people, whoever the culprits, are actually, displaying in this kind of a situation. So, as I've said, I'm here in HAPS accommodation, harassed from my marital home and my family home. That's also an aspect of all of this. There's pettiness involved. There's information being withheld that politicians and officials are fully aware of. There's identity theft, financial theft going on, and the individuals withholding my rights from me and the information that I'm entitled to have really gone to town on this matter and vendetta. They've crossed the line. They've exploited my work. They've just, gone too far. And I would appreciate it, as I say in every upload, if the politicians of the UN, the officials of the UN and the politicians of the Dáil would consider the reality of this situation. Two farm holdings being discussed, negotiated without my consultation. My family life also being discussed without my consultation. My privacy being violated without, it's absolutely outrageous what's going on. So there's been bodily integrity violations also, and they've caused, damage also with regards to what's incurred as a consequence of those violations. And it baffles me to think that there are individuals that would ever consider even attempting further offences against this victim and survivor of guilty culprits of hate crime and human rights violations, because so far the matters that have been caused have not been resolved, and they have not confronted the injustice and the defamation and the withholding of information that's occurred in all of this. So for the politicians and individuals that are discussing my property rights without confronting me, and other matters regarding my family and other extenuating issues, I think ye would be in better stead, as they say, to confront the person that has the only rights to discuss such matters. So that's my first upload. And as regards Women's International Day that's coming up, I hope all the women that are aware of this matter and of what I'm experiencing in Tralee, County Kerry, understand how serious it is for all women if this is facilitated any longer.